Legal problem, Knightsbridge solicitors are always with you by your side. Islamic wills, immigration, medical negligence, family law, criminal law or personal injury. With a 24-hour hotline, our skilled team are always ready to serve. Book a free consultation now with one of our dedicated specialists. Legal aid and no-win, no-fee services are also available. Knightsbridge Solicitors, with branches in Leicester, Nottingham and Birmingham. Call us on 0116 216 5330 or visit www.knightsbridgesolicitors.co.uk.
Did you know that Radio Sira is broadcasting 24/7, 365 days a year on 1575 AM and medium wave? Support the radio with your generous donations so we can cover our running cost. You can donate online through our website by going to radiosira.com/donate or text on 07305 828 531. You can pay one-off or set up a standing order for as little as £5. You can donate your zakat, sadaqah al-lillah, and we will pass it on to a reliable charity. May Allah reward you for your support. Jazakallah khair.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.
You're listening to Radio Sira, available now on our apps on Android and Apple.
You are listening to Radio Sira, 1575 AM, full-time Islamic community radio station.
شوق تخط مساره الأقلام لم تستطع في حصره الأرقام والشوق يا شهر الصيام يحفني ويزيد لما تنقضي الأيام رمضان شربت القلوب محبة شهر كريم عاشقوه كرام وتعود ضيفا قد نزلت مبجلا بقلوبنا لما يمر العام شوق تخط مسار.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. You're tuning in to Radio Sira, and today you are joined by Mohamed Jamaal and Mubarak Sheikh, aka Quack Sheikh, and inshallah we're going to be talking about Muslim runners, representation for Muslims in running, and inshallah we're going to cover a bit about marathons and getting into running or running whilst fasting. So I'm just going to pass it over to Mubarak so he can introduce himself.
Assalamu alaikum everybody, hope everyone's doing well and having a lovely Ramadan. As Jamal introduced, my name is Mubarak Sheikh, also known as Quack, which is a long story I probably won't get into today, but yes, also known as Quack. But today obviously we'd like to talk about running and my kind of journey and what I've done over the last 6 years. Alhamdulillah, you know, I kind of started off with playing a lot of football back in the days, and I wanted to do something different, and I wanted to kind of challenge myself to raise money for good causes, and kind of push the body to its limits. And one person that really inspired me was Haroon. Haroon Mota. Yeah, yes. I used to see a lot of his posts and doing a lot of challenges for various charities, and I remember back in October 2016 signed up for the Leicester Half Marathon. A lot of people kind of do the Couch to 5K first, but I kind of went in deep end straight away, and then did in the Leicester Half Marathon. But I absolutely loved it and got the running book from there. Yeah,
I think just for appreciation for a lot of people out there listening, probably don't realize that Mubarak Shall we say? Should I call you Quack? Or
Call me, yeah, or whatever.
Quack,
Yeah,
okay.
Quack, that's fine. Yeah.
Is probably one of the most famous runners in Leicester, and personally, I think the fastest runner I know in Leicester. So, it's a massive achievement he's had since coming into running. And so how many years? How did you say you've been into running?
So since 2016.
2016.
So just over 6 years now, isn't it?
Yeah.
So alhamdulillah, since then I've done 28 or 29 half marathons and
29 half
and
marathons,
nine full marathons. Alhamdulillah.
It's crazy.
So it's been a really an absolutely incredible journey, to be honest, and wouldn't want to change it for anything.
So just for people listening out there who have no appreciation of running, how long is a half marathon, and how long is a full marathon for people?
So, yes, so the half marathon distance is 13.1 miles. So in kilometers, that's 21 kilometers. And the full marathon distance is 26.2 miles, so 42 kilometers, which is a very long way. So to put in perspective, is saying from Leicester to Coventry, you're running.
Wow.
So that's the distance basically for the full marathon anyway. 26 miles. Yeah.
That is crazy, and you couldn't imagine. I mean, cycling from Leicester to Coventry, that would be difficult, let alone running. And I mean, I myself, my background is with Riders of Sham, running. But when I came into cycling, when I came from cycling to running, the challenge, and it was just a whole different ball game in itself. So people out there listening might not even have ever run a marathon or even run a 5K. And subhanAllah, you've run 29 half marathons and 13 marathons, which puts it into perspective, doesn't it? So how did you, like, for many people who are probably listening out there, and myself as well at one point, when I seen people running, I used to think, these guys are crazy. How are they just out there running for these long distances? How did you overcome that, or how did you find that getting into running initially?
So like you say, Jamaal, it's very, very hard. Running is, whether if it's 5K, whether if it's half marathon distance, running itself is very, very hard. Even till this day, as much as I enjoy it, there are days that I find it's extremely hard when you have to go out for long miles and kind of pound the streets. But a lot of it is having the mental resilience inside you, and just having that motivation and setting a goal that I want to achieve. Let's say a half marathon, or whether if it's a 5K, and I want to do that, and how am I going to get there? If it's 9 weeks, 10 weeks, 15-week program, whatever you've decided to sign up to, is to make sure you kind of set yourself realistic goals and be able to kind of overcome those challenges. So
do you ever I know you mentioned you wake up sometimes and you feel like it's difficult to get out of the house, and I think for me that's all the time. That's every single day that I find that it's always a chore. But what have you gained from running? Like what do you feel like after you finished a run, or like looking back in hindsight, like how much have you come from when before you started running and to where you are now? What sort of things have you gained? And I mean, that's a very good question, Jamaal, because sometimes you always ask yourself, you pay for all these entries that you go to all these different cities to run, and then sometimes you question yourself, like, you're paying this much money to go and run, to be in pain. It makes no sense. But it's for me, it's like having that challenge about, right, okay, I want to get a certain time and be able to kind of improve myself. And the things that I gain from there, is to have a really positive outlook on life, and it makes me feel so much happy, alhamdulillah, from the mental well-being perspective as well as the physical aspect, and finishing a race, when you get the medal around your neck, alhamdulillah, it is such a rewarding feeling, honestly. And it's the endorphins that run inside you, the emotions, especially when you're running a full marathon, or for me personally, from my personal experience anyway, when you've trained 4 months, you'll have to go out on days where it's raining, snowing, where there's you have to go out where you've got to do your training around your family circle, and sacrifice a lot of family time as well.
when you finish and cross the line and you get the time that you set out to do, alhamdulillah, which is obviously known as a PB or a personal best for our listeners, it is such a rewarding and satisfying feeling, alhamdulillah, and that kind of pushes me more and more, that you just don't know where the boundary is, and you just don't know where the limit is. I always like pushing myself, for each race, and trying to kind of see, where I'm at, really.
No, so like alhamdulillah, you touched upon it beautifully. I think, like, as you say, when you put in that much effort into preparing for the main race and the marathons and the half marathons, once you've actually done it and you've come to the end of that, the fulfillment, the sense of fulfillment is just it's just amazing, isn't it? And it's hard to describe it if you've not done it.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, they always say, even in Tabligh Jamaal, like, the more effort you put into something, that's the value that you'll gain from it, isn't it? And when you put so much effort into running, preparing for it, the sense of achievement you get at the end of that marathon, it's amazing, isn't it? And it's what I think for me as well. Even though I hate coming out, getting out of the house when it's raining or it's cold, that joy you get at the end of it, it's always brings you back for more, isn't it? It's the endorphins that's released.
Exactly, and it's so uplifting, Jamal. Honestly, every race that I've done, alhamdulillah, it's never like the novelty doesn't wear off. Alhamdulillah, it's always special. Each race tell its own story, almost. And for me, that's like, it's so uplifting, And I've never found a sport where I felt so good about it, and I'm very, very passionate about it, as you know. I'm a very big advocate of it, so that's kind of my main kind of drive, so to call, alhamdulillah, and just absolutely love it, honestly.
No, alhamdulillah, I think it's amazing, and I mean, in a day and age as well, where, like, I remember when I was, I think people would say I remember when I was a kid that everyone used to play out in the streets, but like, I remember when I was young, I think it was just as smartphones were beginning to come out and the PlayStations and everything like that. I mean, everyone used to come out as a kid and constantly be out in the streets. But now, like, when I look at my younger brother and I look at the younger generation, they're just glued to their smartphones and staying inside, playing on the PlayStations and whatever, the computers. And in a day and age like this, having something like running where you can go out, just put your trainers on, run a 5k, run a 10k. For you, just run a marathon on a normal day, 2-3 hours just out in the outdoors, connecting, with the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like, going out, and you just get to see the beauty of the parks and the trees, the things you see when you're running. I mean, I'm sure you can testify. I mean, from all the marathons you've done, the things you get to see, it's just a disconnect from the constant smartphones and the barrage of social media, isn't it? And I mean, I'm sure you can talk about some of the marathons. How you said you've done 13 full marathons.
So nine full marathons and 29 half marathons. So
where has that, like, taken you in the world? Because I know not every marathon's. I mean, you get Leicester half marathon and you get Coventry, a few ones local in East Midlands. But I know you've been to some exotic places, isn't it?
So I mean, alhamdulillah, it's very nice running around in the UK, but I wanted to kind of venture out, and at the minute I'm on a bit of a quest to do the big 6 marathons in the world. So for our listeners who don't know which ones they are, so that's New York, London, Boston, Tokyo, Chicago, and Berlin. Alhamdulillah, I've done London, Berlin, and Chicago.
Berlin, Chicago.
Yeah, I've done 3, and so I've got 3 more left. So just looking back at those races, Chicago was one of my favorite races to do. Honestly, it's absolutely amazing. The vibes, the people when you go over there, and the city itself. Honestly, it's absolutely incredible, Jamal. Honestly, when you run an abroad marathon, it's absolutely crazy, because, like, I always thought to myself, like, I never thought I'd do something like this. Go abroad and go run. I always thought that I'll just be local and just stay within the do all my races here. But the Abbots World Major Marathons, that's a lot of people do try to get that ticked off, and alhamdulillah, our brother Haroon yesterday managed to complete that, alhamdulillah, so excellent work by him, alhamdulillah.
Yes, so I mean, I know you touched upon Haroon being an inspiration as well. Like, he's one of probably the most well-known runners, I'd say, Muslim runners, and I did see that yesterday he ticked off the Boston Marathon as well whilst fasting.
Yeah.
Did he run it while he was fasting?
I don't think he was fasting.
Okay,
I don't
okay.
think he was.
He was
Yeah, I
run-
don't
but
think
he,
he
was,
was,
he
yeah.
ran it during
But he ran it.
during the month of Ramadan. He was
Of
doing the
course.
training during the
Yeah.
month of Ramadan, which is
Yeah.
a big thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, as you touched upon, like Boston, Chicago, Berlin, London. I mean, when you get to go to these places and you run the marathons, 26 miles around a city like this, you must get to cover the whole city off just by running, isn't it? Like
you
seeing
do.
all the major sites and
Yeah.
how's that like when you how's the atmosphere like how's
Just amazing, Jamal. Honestly, it's something else, and it's so hard to describe, because when you go out there, you feel very apprehensive for a start, especially for a new city. You don't know anyone there and stuff, but the community itself, the running community, and the camaraderie that you get amongst the other runners is absolutely amazing. I've never kind of experienced anything like that before. So you can obviously sightsee and stuff, but and obviously do what you've come to do, which is obviously to do the run. But that's just absolutely amazing. And Chicago was one of my favorite highlights of my running career, so to call. Absolutely loved it because all the stars aligned on that day. Had a good race.
Yes,
and
yeah.
considering I ran London Marathon the week before, and it's something that I would never do, run 2 back-to-back marathons. It's very challenging on the body, very taxing on the body. Let's just say that.
2 back-to-back. I mean, people out there probably thinking they can't even begin to imagine one marathon, and you're doing back-to-back marathons. Alhamdulillah, it's a massive achievement. You said that like all the stars aligned on that day. Like you had the best run. Was it your PB?
It was PB, good conditions, alhamdulillah, and everything just alhamdulillah just went so well. And we had a really nice post marathon party, me, Haroon, and the rest of the Muslim runners that were there at the time. Had a really good time.
Alhamdulillah, you just got a message from Smiling Occasions _ official saying Quack Adams
Okay.
in the house. Shout
Okay.
out. So with Boston, it was Boston, right? So Chicago.
Yeah, Chicago.
Can we put it into perspective for people listening out there, the time that you got, and how does it compare to like on an average? Because I think people out there don't have a. For me, if I was a cyclist and you told me you ran a 5K in 30 minutes, I wouldn't have a clue what that meant.
Yeah.
So with people listening out there, probably don't have the appreciation for running. Can we put it into perspective somehow, like how they can understand how fast you run it?
To put in perspective, I guess the average finish time for a marathon would be probably around just like the 4 hour 30 mark.
4 hour 30 minutes, yeah.
That's around the average
So
finish time.
4 hours of just running.
Of running constantly.
No stops.
No stops.
Toilet breaks and water breaks, and
That's
it's crazy.
Yeah, and obviously it's very 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 hard. And then I did Chicago in 2:53. That was my best time.
2 hours, and so that's 2 hours and 53 minutes.
Yeah.
So that's over 1 hour and sorry, my maths. 1 hour and 40 minutes faster than the average. About 1 hour and 50 minutes faster than the average time, which is it's crazy, and it shows the amount of effort and hard work you put into running over the years. And what's the world record? I mean, was it
Well, Kipchoge's got the unofficial record, so he went under 2 hours when he did in Vienna, but that's not officially, because it's not an official race, if that makes sense. But he broke the sub 2 hour mark because no man has ever done that before.
So you're only 50 minutes away from the fastest man in the world.
It's a long time. It's a very long time. In running, that is a very, very long time, honestly. But I think he holds a record in Berlin, which is 2:01, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
That's the official record. Yeah.
So what one thing I would say though is in terms of running and like the representations of Muslim, how have you found that across the years? Because I mean, even it's just sport in general. I mean, for me, when we go cycling in the countryside, when you come across an Asian or even a Muslim, it's a shock. You're like, wow, it's someone with a beard, it's someone with colour.
Yeah.
Because it's a very middle class sport. So you see a lot of middle class white men like out there who's cycling, but it's very very rare to come across many Muslims. I think there's many barriers into the sport as well. Like it's quite expensive to get into cycling. Bikes can range from like $2,000 to $3,000. the good bikes, the
Yeah.
entry level bikes, what, £500, and then
Yeah.
you got to buy a kit and you got to buy all this
Well,
other
that's up,
nonsense.
Yeah.
Running, I guess it's not as expensive unless you're buying loads of trainers and you've got like the Alpha Flies and the next level flies. We don't want to get into that for this time, but yeah, it's not as expensive. But how do you find like the representation of Muslims in running, and how do you
That's a very good question, Jamal, because it's like I remember like 6 years ago when I did the Leicester Half Marathon, and alhamdulillah, Leicester, as you know, is very diverse. You know, we have people from all walks of life, and I can see that there's been an improvement in lots of the Muslim community to take part in this. But when I used to step on the starting line in different cities and stuff, you will not see much representation. Do you know that?
Yeah.
And it was I did kind of feel it, you know, in terms of like there's no one that looks like me kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know, and it's. But alhamdulillah, now with what Haroon's doing with the whole active inclusion network, with Muslim runners, Muslim cyclists, Muslim hikers, is to kind of promote Muslims to get out and, you know, try to get out of their comfort zone a bit.
Yeah.
And be able to just normalize everything. You know, it's fine. You know, you can do what you want. I'm not saying everybody needs to go and run.
Yeah.
You know,
Of course.
20 or miles, whatever. But do whatever you feel like you are able to do. You know, and set yourself goals. So. Alhamdulillah, you know, with like as an example to give you with Parkrun, alhamdulillah, you know, we're seeing a lot more Muslim community to come out.
Parkrun,
which I can explain more in detail what Parkrun is, but we're seeing more people from our community to take part in this, which is absolutely great. But there's loads to do, Jamal, to be honest, and I think there's a lot of stigma and there's a lot of there's a lot of stigma around fitness within the South Asian community, you know. Not wanting to do it for whatever reason, you know, whether it's, you know, cultural barriers, whatever. But I think that needs to kind of change.
Yeah, I think like you touched upon it beautifully again. I mean, it definitely is changing. I mean, I remember when I came to my first parkrun, it must have been 2 years ago now. I mean, I know I had a bit of a background as well with Riders of Sham, but even if we use Riders of Sham as an example, I mean, when we started off 8 years ago, we were having like 15-20 people join us on our rides, and now this year for the first time we've taken 50 people with us to Amsterdam to Copenhagen, and the number of people getting into cycling during lockdown and similarly with running was just exponential, wasn't it? And I think Leicester itself as a city has so much to offer, alhamdulillah. There's so many organisations out there, and there's so many opportunities for people to get into running. As you mentioned, the parkrun, which many people around Leicester probably never ever heard of or don't know where it is. Myself as well, when I tell people that there's literally like a race happening every Saturday at 9 a.m. in the park, or when people walking past see this massive about 100, 300, 400 people. And the atmosphere and buzz you get from that as well, it's just it's nice, isn't it, running with people and getting to the end of that, and then seeing us, the group of Muslims at the end of the finish line as well. It's a nice brotherhood. And do you want to touch upon a bit about what is parkrun and people out there listening?
I could, so for our listeners, you know, parkrun is it's inclusive to everybody, you know, regardless of ability, you know, or what community you've come from. Which takes part every Saturday at 9 a.m. I know it's very early doors, you know, on a Saturday. But wherever you are, whether if it's Leicester, Coventry, any kind of city in the United Kingdom, you can take part in this. It's completely free. You don't need to sign up to anything or subscribe to anything. Obviously, you pre-register on Parkrun's website. If you just do a quick Google on Parkrun, it'll come up with a registration page. But the premise behind that is that you can run, walk, or jog, or even volunteer at the event. And the parkrun itself is 5 kilometers, so 3.1 miles. So in Leicester, we're very fortunate to have quite a few parkruns now.
Abbey Park one,
so now we've just had Abbey Park, which was the inaugural one last week that we had. We got Victoria Park, we got Braunston Park, we got Watermead Park. So that's quite a few over here within this within the locality here. But just to talk about parkrun is absolutely amazing. Do you know that? And I'm a big advocate about parkrun. You know, and I've seen so many people come to parkrun, not been able to walk. They couldn't even do like they couldn't even go out for a 1 mile walk without getting breathed out. Let's say. But they've come to parkrun as a means of getting onto running, and they've done the 5K at parkrun. They've now gone on to do a half marathon and the marathon distance, and I'm like, wow, that is such an inspiration. Honestly, that's absolutely amazing. That is, so. And the camaraderie that you get in parkrun, everybody's there to kind of cheer everybody on. Nobody's ever last. So no one's ever made to feel like, oh, you've come last or whatever, because the volunteer will always be the last person at parkrun. So you can either go for the kind of the social aspect and have a nice chit chat with your friend if you wanted to, or if you want to go and blast it and go for a personal best and try to improve on your 5K time, you can certainly do so. So it's each to their own how you want to do it, but like I said, parkrun is completely inclusive to everybody, which I absolutely love about, and it's absolutely fantastic community. And alhamdulillah, my wife, she runs as well. She comes to it as well. Alhamdulillah.
There's a lot of Muslim ladies as well.
There's lots of Muslim ladies as well. So for our listeners, it's not just just men who take part in it. It's also ladies who also take part in it. We're seeing a lot of Muslim ladies who come regularly, which is nice to see. And it's such a great community. Honestly, I would 100%, say to people, if they do want to take up running, go to parkrun first and see what it's about, and see and check it out, really.
Yeah, no, and it's just that amazing when you get to the start line on that Saturday morning. And you see like the hundreds of other people there. It's just like nice atmosphere. I mean, it's nice running on your own as well. For me, I mean, personally, I always put in my earphones and I put a podcast on. And I listen to some Numan Ali Khan, Sheikh Hamza Yusuf.
Nice.
So for me, it's like you're getting double reward. You're doing like you're fulfilling your body's amount of responsibilities. Like completing that, and then you're also learning Deen on the way as well, which is beautiful. You could listen to. Nowadays, you can, with your Garmin watches and your phones, you can listen to anything you want.
Exactly.
But yes, the parkrun, the feeling of being able to run with all the other people, and then even if you do want to sort of take people on and try to get it for a PB, it's a quite nice feeling. And then that last sprint where everyone tries to take each other on, it's a very, very nice feeling. And I think if anyone out there does want to experience just coming out running in a group, running with other people, the social aspect, it's a perfect opportunity for them, isn't it?
It is, Jamal, it is. And I know if people do struggle, they might be feeling a bit apprehensive going by themselves out on a run. Parkrun is really good for that, because like you say, you're out with a group, and no doubt, you'll make friends so easily with people there, because everybody's so friendly and welcoming, and everybody will cheer you on, whether if it's your first parkrun or whether if it's your 100th parkrun. It doesn't really matter, but the community vibes that you get from parkrun is absolutely amazing, and we're very fortunate, at Leicester Victoria Park we have, like you said, we had like over 300 people turn up, all from different abilities, so people in their like 60s, 70s, or people who are young as like 10. So
I've seen that.
It's even kids,
people running with their prams,
people with their buggy running, with their prams, and it's absolutely amazing, honestly. So do check out parkrun. If you do want to get into running, it's fantastic, really good.
No, and then how about like so you obviously you're a seasoned runner. For me, I'm more of like when I get into it, there's sometimes a gap, but it's hard with cycling, running, and
I can understand
everything. But how do you find maintaining your fitness? Like, I mean, I see this a lot on social media. People asking this: how do you maintain your fitness during Ramadan, and how do you find that, and what's your sort of tips for people out there?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question, Jamal, because when it's Ramadan, it's very, very hard to keep active, because as you know, we're very much sleep deprived a lot of the time, and it's very hard with Tarawih, and it's very difficult. But I would say, and in my personal experience, it's like, what's really worked for me in terms of running, like I would go between, like, let's say Asr and Maghrib.
Okay,
and I know that I'm not I'm not gonna do anything too intense.
Okay. Yeah.
So I'm still keeping up my physical activity, because I think how I look at it is like, when it comes to Ramadan, you shouldn't just stop doing anything. Stop doing anything.
Yeah. Of course.
You should still continue with your daily life, and alhamdulillah, obviously you still do your zikr and your ibadah, alhamdulillah, which is equally as important as well. But what I would recommend is to do what you feel is right, and not kind of push yourself so much, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because if people want to start out running in Ramadan, that can be a complete shock to the body.
Of course, yeah. It's
And it's taken me a lot of years to get to this stage, alhamdulillah, where I've adapted and I'm kind of used to running whilst fasting. And stuff, But my training has always been around, like, let's say if I'm this year will be the first time I'm running a marathon just outside of Ramadan, just the day after Eid.
So tell us more about that. It's a London Marathon.
The London Marathon that falls on, which is on the 23rd of April.
So Eid is going to be.
Eid will either be Friday or Saturday.
Okay, well,
but I'm hoping and praying it'll be on Friday, so it gives us the day to kind of get
the marathon's on the Saturday.
On the Sunday.
Oh, the Sunday. Okay. So
Sunday.
one day after Eid.
One day after Eid, yeah. So
I did see the marathon, and when I seen that it was after Ramadan, Harun was just advertising, and he said, "Do you like want some spots?" I was like, "Passing for myself, no chance. I'm not doing no running."
Yeah.
I knew I couldn't do no running during Ramadan.
This is the thing. Yeah. So this is the thing. So I've had to train in Ramadan because obviously the marathon
of course,
is just after Ramadan, and so that's been a challenge. Don't get me wrong. It's hard trying to run 13 miles when you're so fatigued and so tired, and you've got no energy. But like I said, what I've done is what's really worked for me. I take it really nice and slow. I don't need to go run so fast. And when I do finish my run, it's a time for iftar, alhamdulillah. And I can enjoy and break my fast. Exactly, yeah.
The best sip of water.
Exactly. But you're not gonna believe this, Jamaal. I feel more energized when you run.
I actually
honestly
I did 5K during Ramadan, and for some reason I did have a more, maybe because you're lighter, like no
exactly
no food during the day,
like Tarawih, everything was absolutely fine. I'm like, I'm ready for bring on 20 rakats or whatever, and it's alhamdulillah, it's crazy what your body can do whilst fasting as well. It's absolutely incredible, to be honest. So yes, because I'm doing London Marathon, so going back to that, I've had to adapt my training. I've had to have a bit of a longer taper, if that makes sense. So I've had to kind of bank the miles in slightly prior. So what tends to happen is you have like an 18-week training block. 18 weeks.
So for marathons you have an 18-week training plan that you follow, isn't it? Yeah.
So that's pretty much like 4 months of training.
Okay,
pounding the streets like 4 times a week, 5 times a week. Just to get your body used to running longer distances.
Wow.
So your training will go up to like 20 miles, 22 miles. So the training I've done, alhamdulillah, so it was just managing, just making sure that you got time on your feet.
Yes.
So during Ramadan, what I've done is made sure to not to do 20 miles. I don't need to do any of that, but just to kind of do like 10 miles, 13 miles, and just to make sure you're
maintaining the fitness.
Exactly. Just keeping the legs ticking over. But I don't do any like sprint or hill workout or anything like that. I don't do kind of any of those kind of sessions, just to kind of just keep it very easy. Conversational pace. So when you're running, you should think to yourself like you can talk to somebody, and you can have a conversation with somebody.
So like talking pace, whereas for many of us, I guess if you're walking up the stairs, you're completely out of breath. So it shows how comfortable you are. I mean, running marathons with the talking pace, I can't even begin to imagine. But in terms of the marathon itself, I know that this year you're going to be an official pacer for the London Marathon. So I mean, for people out there listening who probably might not have no understanding of marathons, and what is an official pacer, and how big of a for me I know how big of a thing that is. How big of a thing is that for me, a Muslim, one of the first Muslim, is it first? I don't know if you're the first, but a Muslim pacer for is it 3 hours?
It's 3:15.
3:15.
3:15. Yeah, alhamdulillah. So just for our listeners, so every race has pacers. And the pacer's responsibility is to make sure you get to your start to finish in
Uh-huh.
the time that you've set out to do, what tends to happen in marathons in particular, Jamal, is like people go out too fast
Yeah.
and they burn out.
Yeah. I guess you
And
got that.
they don't pace themselves.
Yeah, you got that George, that energy
You got
at
that
the
joy,
beginning.
you get that adrenaline, that wow, crowds, wow, amazing,
Yeah.
this is the best thing ever, you know. And then come mile 10, whatever it is, come mile 5 or whatever, you know, and people just burn out and start to fizzle out.
Yes.
So
yes.
my responsibility is to make sure that the pack that I'm running with is that they get into the 3:15 pace,
Okay.
and make sure they get, you know, they start to finish within that time frame, basically.
Yeah.
So it's there's a lot of responsibility with that. If you know, it may sound a bit easy, but it's not, because you have to make sure you run your splits. So each mile that you run has to be evenly as possible.
Yeah. So
You know,
26 miles is trying to average that at the same time. That's very
Exactly.
Can be
So
very difficult.
I can't say right, we're gonna go out, you know, this minute mile right now,
Yeah.
and then do something else different minute miling, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
You know, so it's not fair on people, and it's the pacing can be quite erratic, you know. So it's very important to make sure you run evenly as possible, so people behind you are able to kind of keep that pace up. if that makes sense, you know. So alhamdulillah, you know, like you said, you know, I've had the opportunity to be the London Marathon pacer, and I'm absolutely super excited for it. You know, giving back to the running community gives me so much joy, honestly. And you know, when I did the Leicester half marathon as a pacer, as well as the Leicester 10k as a pacer, the sense of I get more of a buzz from that than getting PBs.
Yeah,
you know, honestly, Jamal, I absolutely love
you're
it.
helping
And
so many other people achieve their goals.
You know,
isn't it?
people come back, you know, and they might not be able to have a conversation with you at the time, because they're pushing, you know, for their you know, 100% effort they're giving. But towards the end of the race, it'd be like, you know, they'll pat you on the back and say, you know, thank you so much. You know, you done your due diligence in keeping the pace, and you know, you got me my PB today. You know, my personal best. So and that goes a long way for me. You know, alhamdulillah. You know, that for me that's what I want to kind of do more now, is pacing our events. And be a representation for Muslims. You know, and be able to represent the Muslim community in the pacing world. You know.
So as a Muslim in the running world, do you feel like do people come up to you much, like as other Muslims, like as a sort of role model, not as or do they come up to you like for advice, like someone like, you know, like you're a fellow Muslim, how did you do this, or just maybe when you go to the masjid and stuff like that, do people ever come to you and say like how do you I seen you running, how do you do that, how do I get involved, like how do you find that? Share your thoughts on that.
Good question, Jamal. I mean, I get that a lot. I do get it a lot. I mean, I'm happy to kind of share my knowledge and what's kind of worked for me, alhamdulillah, you know, because that's what I love to do, is to kind of give back to the community. And if somebody can take up running because of what I've said to them and stuff like that, you know, that's absolutely amazing. So you know, where people have said, I want to start, but I don't know where to start. You know, you run 26 miles. How am I going to do that? I'm like, you don't need to do 26 miles. Let's get that out of your head first, Let's start off with the basics and start to build your foundation first, you know. So I always say that, you know, before you start running, you need to start to crawl first and start to walk first, obviously, you know, and use that kind of analogy. So I always kind of recommend them to do a 5k, for instance, and we can talk about the Couch to 5k, I guess. You know, talk to them about, just do a Couch to 5k first. You know, that's for people who've never run in their entire lives, you know, but want to get into fitness, want to get into running. They can do like a run walk strategy. And you know, by the end of the Couch to 5k plan, they should be able to, you know, inshallah, be able to run the 5k, you know. And alhamdulillah, that's what it's about, you know. And I've given advice to people whereby, you know, they want to do certain things, like let's say they want to do a marathon first, which is fine, it's absolutely fine, that's not a problem. But you know, always give them advice on where to start first. You know, try to first of all build your foundation, build your aerobic base. That's what matters, you know. And when we're running, what's really important to have, like, endurance. So to build that is to make sure you run consistently, you know, before you start tackling on the big things, you know, in the running distances.
And the benefits which we have touched upon vaguely as well, like the benefits which come from running. I mean, for me, not running, just running and cycle, but challenging challenge yourself, I think it gives you that sort of resilient mindset, which like when it comes to any sort of challenges in life, or anything that you might be facing in terms of work or like life, that you know that if you're able to put yourself up to challenges like running marathons, cycling hundreds of miles, it helps you. It builds your character, doesn't it?
It does. It definitely does, Jamal. Do you know that? And I mean, like I said before, running is a very hard sport. And a lot of it is mental. So you got to train the mind to be very strong. And especially, from my personal experiences when I've run marathons and stuff, they say that the marathon doesn't start until mile 20, for example.
Yeah.
And the last 6 miles are so hard, because your body's so tired, your legs are screaming at you to say you want to stop now. But to train the mind to keep on going and to kind of keep persevering, that's very important, very crucial. But you can use that same kind of same kind of thing for a 5K, not just marathons, but for 5K, for a mile, whatever you're doing, in what sport you're doing, it'll always be hard, but it's important to kind of train the mind.
And so, for people who are listening out there, and they're interested in getting into running, or maybe have an interest into let's talk about running, for example. What would your message be to them, and what would you say to them? How can they get involved, and where do they start?
Yeah, so they can start off by first of all the Couch to 5K program, which Riders of Sham have kindly put on as an example within the community.
The Couch to 5K. Let's touch upon that. So what is the Couch to 5K, and when's that happening, and how can people get involved?
Yeah, so people can get involved by going onto the Riders of Sham website, whereby you can register your interests for Couch to 5K, and basically what that involves is a 9-week plan whereby it'll be led by certain runners from the community, where they'll be able to offer you their services in terms of guiding you, completely free by the way, on how to get ready for the 5K. So it'll be like the first couple of weeks will be just walking, just nice, gentle, brisk walk. And then as the weeks pass, it'll be starting to introduce running, etc. So it'll be like a run-walk strategy. And then eventually, after the 9 weeks, you should be able to run, the 5K, 3.1 miles. Yeah.
So this strategy has been. Sorry, first, I mean, initially it came to sort of popularity with the NHS program. Was it during the COVID lockdown?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so a lot of people during lockdown, obviously when gyms and everything were closed, and we couldn't do anything and sit at home. The Couch to 5K program was initiated, and the plan that's on the NHS app is absolutely fantastic. Really well led, honestly, and there's a little podcast that you can hear at the same time whilst you're doing the Couch to 5K. Words of encouragement and just to keep you going, and it's absolutely fantastic. So if it's available on iOS, Android, for you to download completely free, no subscription tied to that whatsoever. You can do it at your own leisure, but with the Riders of Sham, alhamdulillah, we're planning to do a Couch to 5K after Ramadan. So if anybody is interested, do go on their website and sign up to it.
It's open to all women, men. I don't know if you had any children, but yeah, maybe. Okay. If anyone's interested, definitely, inshallah, sign up to that.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen so many people who never thought they could get into running with that plan.
Yeah.
Go from walking to be able to run a 5K, and just that feeling, being able to run a 5K at the end of it. It's like we've talked about how rewarding it feels.
It's absolutely brilliant.
You talk about the run is high as well, isn't it?
The run is high, yeah.
That you get at the end of a run, and just being able to. I mean, for us as well, living in Leicester, you've got so much desserts and takeaways, the choco berries and the fudge puppies and all the. I mean, Hotville's one of the favorite ones now for me. I mean, you're eating all this takeaway and this junk food, For me, I mean, it gives me motivation to be able to eat these foods, because I know if I can go out for a run tomorrow, I can burn off all these calories, which I'm not condoning out there. Everyone go eat takeaway and stuff like that. But it's nice to be able to, you know, have that feeling, you know, that I've had gone to dawa, you know, like eaten a lot of too much good food, and being able to, you know, burn it off the next day as well. I say in terms of like even an Islamic perspective, that the body for all of us is an amana at the end of the day, isn't it? And
that's right, Jamal, 100%.
We need to look after the body as well, and it does fulfill that requirement. And I mean, remember many times I'm hearing teachers say as well that if you use anything, any form of fitness, anything as a form of ibadah, like you say that you're doing this so you can then exert yourself when it comes to praying salah and like doing long tarawih and stuff like that. Because many people struggle even to stand.
Tarawih,
so things like this, it builds your resilience for that as well, isn't it? So
100%, Jamal. You touched upon so many things there, because like you said, you know, the body is given to us by Allah, you know, as an amana, alhamdulillah, and you know, even if you're like running or walking and you're doing zikr, and you know that's a form of ibadah, just there, you know, doing that, you know, and that's a very big thing, you know, alhamdulillah. So it's important that we look after our bodies, you know, especially in this day and age, especially in the South Asian community, whereby, you know, there's a lot of health inequalities. So there's a lot of, you know, people who got like, you know, high cholesterol, all that kind of stuff, you know, diabetic, and you know, especially is very prevalent within the South Asian community, you know, in particular. So it's very important to have something that you do that you really enjoy in terms of fitness. You know, whether if it's a 30-minute walk outside, going spinning in the park or whatever it is, you know, within your area. I think it's the NHS guidance. Is it 90 minutes of physical activity every week you have to do? Something like that, So there's the actual guidance from the government and the health professionals is to do that much physical activity a week. And how many people do you think in our community might be fulfilling that? But so it's definitely food for thought for people out there listening. I mean, I know in the past few weeks we've touched upon cycling and like other forms of fitness. There's so much out there in the community of Leicester that you can get involved in. So if anyone is interested, I mean, we've got a few minutes left now. How can people get in touch with you? How can people get in touch with Muslim runners? How can people get how other ways can people reach out if they want support, if they want advice with anything to the listeners out there? So there's a few ways that you can get in touch with us. I mean, first of all, with Radha Sham, what they're doing with amazing work with Radha Sham, with the Couch to 5K as well. Because I know you guys have been doing cycling all, but now you're kind of venturing out with the running as well, which is. I think it's only right with so many like amazing runners like yourself and Ibrahim, Ishmael, and Abu, all those guys out there listening, inshallah. With all the big running community, it's only I think right to sort of try get others involved, isn't it, and sort of open up the community to everyone. I mean, take advantage of the amazing talent we've got with all you guys. Jazakallah. Thank you so much for that, Jamal. So you can do it through Radha Sham. You know, there's Muslim runners on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, which that's Harun's Active Inclusion Network, whereby we have so many runners from all overseas, you know, from all different parts of the world. It's becoming a big online community that's now as well. So you can reach out through there, or you can feel free to message me on Instagram, Mubarak Sheikh, and I'm happy to kind of answer any of your questions that you may have. But just want to say, just go out there, just do what you can, you know, and just be, you know, just be happy, you know, in the physical activity that you do, you know. Yes, so it's Instagram. You've got the Muslim runners. You've got Quack on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, whatever form of social media you want to use. You can reach out to us, inshallah. And also, if you want to just turn up one weekend, come to the park run. Abbey Park. You've got Bournemouth Park, Victoria Park. There's so much opportunity out there. And inshallah, the Couch to 5K will be starting the first weekend after Ramadan. And it'll be a 9-week program, so you can take it at your own pace. We'll be doing one joint run per week, so if anyone is wanting to get into running, it's a perfect opportunity for you guys to get involved, and inshallah, then you can take up running, and maybe one day you can be challenging Quack in his marathons, inshallah, and maybe
trying to get PB. I mean, we didn't even go to Strava and all the PBs and all the kudos, all that stuff. But I mean, alhamdulillah, it's been really great to have Mubarak on the radio today, talking about Muslims in running, marathon running, and representation of Muslims in running. Any final words?
No, I just want to say Jazakallah Jamal for giving me the opportunity to be here and talk about my running journey. Alhamdulillah, Jazakallah. It means a lot. Honestly.
No, inshallah, and we will love to have you back, and inshallah, hopefully we can get some more of the running crew out here with us.
Runners, and runners out, yeah.
Hopefully we've inspired some people out there, inshallah, to take up running. That's been Mohamed Jamaal and Mubarak, inshallah, talking about running today. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
And finances. The news overshadowed First Minister Humza Yousaf's first major statement in Holyrood, where he pledged to a fresh start for Scotland. The US ambassador to Russia says charges against journalist Evan Gersovich are baseless after his appeal to be released